Did I tell you this is dangerous as hell?
A rough song at the beginning anyway.
Hi guys. This is the story of my John Dow Industries oil removal tool, or whatever they call it. It's a vacuum powered sucker that holds about 30 gallons of oil. I use it for cleaning out the sumps of old machines, and you can change the oil in your tractor if you want to, or car, by sticking a tube down. It's very versatile. And I bought one that I thought was a good one. Well, I don't know why, but this thing has sprung a leak out the bottom of this tank. I'll show you some pictures. About a year and a half ago, I guess I bought this maybe 3 years ago now, and used it not a lot, and only for sucking oil out of things. Never been any water or anything corrosive in it, and it was a great tool. I could fill it up, used oil, then take it to the recycle place and just empty it right into their drum. Well, everything was fine. About a year and a half ago, I suffered a major heart attack, and I came back from the hospital, and man, 6 days in the hospital, all I wanted to do was come into my shop and fiddle around. And I walked in the door and I smelt something. So I walked into the grinding room where this had been resting peacefully. Climate controlled, everything, nothing to corrode it or rust it, never been outside. Underneath this was the biggest mess you've ever seen. Apparently it had started leaking while I was in the hospital, and leaked out probably about half the contents onto my concrete. And when I got back, it had soaked into the concrete, and there was nothing I could really do to clean it up, and just have to live with it. But this thing, it's got pinholes in the bottom of the tank. I'm trying to fix it so I can at least use it or throw it away. The main point is what I'm fixing to do is dangerous as all get out. I've seen people really badly hurt in my years as a paramedic. A couple times they were welding on cylinders or trying to cut the head out of a drum. Anytime you try that, you're really risking an explosion. Most of the time you don't know what's been in there. In this case, it's been hydraulic oil and engine oil. I'm going to take some precautions, and it still worries me, but like I say, don't do this at home. I've taken off and opened all the ports here that I can. The front of it's open, and I've let it drain for about 4 days now to be sure as much of the gross liquid is out as I could get. One of the things that they teach you when you go to fire school is about the fire triangle. Now, the fire triangle is a simple method of thinking about fire and what causes and what can happen with fire. Somebody came up with the idea that you have a simple triangle, and someplace on one point of the triangle is heat. Another place on that is fuel. And the next place is oxygen. So 3 points, if you take any one of those away, there's no fire. So in this case, I've got to use heat because I'm going to weld it. I've got fuel inside, which is the fumes from the hydraulic fluid and the motor oil. Even though I've taken as much as I can out of there, there's still fumes in there. So I need to get rid of the oxygen. And to do that, I'm going to fill it with a couple pounds of CO2, dry ice. Now, dry ice is CO2 in a frozen state. It sublimates and changes into a gas, and I want to do that because I want this thing as full of gas as I can get it. Now I could take one of my tanks of 25 or 100% argon or CO2 and put it in here. That stuff's getting expensive. Dry ice is cheap, and I really want a lot of dry ice to make a lot of CO2 to displace all the oxygen so I can weld this plug on the end and be done with it. So that's what we're doing in this video. I'll try to keep it as short as I can, but I can't express this enough. This would and possibly could injure you to where you won't live anymore, or you won't have an arm, or your head looks funky. This is dangerous. Anytime you apply heat to any cylinder, be very, very careful. I'm not recommending to do this at all. If I had the money, I'd throw this thing in the trash and go buy a new one. But then we wouldn't have any good explosive YouTubes to look at now, would we? Anyhow, well, that's something you don't see every day. A really expensive oil vacuum unit. And I think I paid over $400, $450, something like that for a couple years ago. Sitting upside down, useless. The reason it is useless is this. I decided to fix this thing. I need it because I got to change 65 gallons of oil out of the planer that has become contaminated with water from a roof leak. That was bad enough, but now my really expensive oil sucker's down. I got the old wire brush and grinder out, and I started attacking the bottom, and this is what I found. Now, that doesn't look like rust to me. How about you guys? Don't hear any dull. Now, this round end of this tank's quite common. I think that's called a head. And they heat it up in an oven, a circular disc of flat steel, and they put it into a big press, and it forms that shape. They cut all the round part down here on this seam flush, and then they can weld it to a cylinder. Well, most of the stress that I've seen them do, you know, is in this area, the round curve area. I don't think it draws any steel from this area as they're pressing it. Maybe, I don't know. But I gotta fix this. I hate to throw it away. What I'm going to do is set it up here on this workbench. For a couple reasons. One, get it away from that oil. Yeah, you can see light through there. Don wants me to look down inside there and see what I can see. I'll see if I can do that. I don't know why. The whole bottom of that thing looks like it's kind of bad shape. It's never had any water in it. You can see in there the pinholes. It looks like see if I can focus it a little bit better. I need 3 more hands, guys. This may be futile. If you look in there, you can see the pinholes from the other side. I'm not sure, but I think that whole head is rusty on the whole bottom. So much for spending good money on a good machine. Well, I guess the only thing I can do is weld up what I've got, and we'll just kind of monitor it and watch for other holes to develop. Let's get to it. Now, this is a piece of metal that I'm going to shape to fit over the bottom of that tank. I don't know what kind of metal it is. I'm hoping it's not a higher tool steel like 4140 that's hard to weld, but it seems pretty soft. I'm going to put a little concave on it and then a bevel so that I can weld it on there good. This is just some stuff that I had laying in a bucket. Don't know what it was. It was about the right shape and size. Don't want to take it too deep of a cut, or hard of a cut. If it's not being held greatly in that job, I get real rough with it. The reason I'm doing something so thick like this is I want to be able to weld onto the thicker steel and not be able to go in, and I want to focus my heat on the thicker steel instead of being able to do it on that thin metal. Hopefully doing it that way, I'm going to have a little bit better chance of making it not burn through. Now what I'm doing here is making the inside of this convex. Fit around that bulge in the bottom of the tank. I'm combining both axes as I go in. Make that concave with that ought to be enough. Now the tricky part. Really close to these jaws, and I want to be able to put a 45 on this. What I'm going to do is I'm going to set this up away from the work
I found out that old Bob, you can pull both clutches at the same time and it'll make a 45. And now you got to go left or right on your drive so you know which way to go. So that's what we're going to test. Watch the cutter. That's going away from it and in at the same time. Now if I was going the other way, it would come out and go in towards the headstock at the same time. Well, I don't want to do that. I want it to go away. That way I don't risk running into the headstock. And basically I cut a little bit of that. Now I'm going to come up in here and I'm going to flip both clutches at the same time. I just took a little bit. I'll back out. Up in here. Try again. See how that made a really nice chamfer bevel 45? So I'm going to go up here and take a little bit more every time. I'm going to start farther in every time. Always enjoyed that feature on my Axelsons. Glad to see Bob is doing the same thing. I think that is about an 1/8 inch undercut. What do y'all think? Good enough for welding. Cleaned up as much as I dare towards the jaws here. Let's flip it around. There's also, let's see how hot I got it. Now there's a little trick I use when I got a thin piece of metal like this, a disc going into a jaw. I rotate it on the flat side as I'm running the jaws in. And what that helps me do is keep this surface parallel to the chuck, not be kind of tilted so much. Kind of go by feel. Like I said, this is just a weldable plate to go on there. And fortunately, I've taken a lot of the flat area off of it, so it's hard to line up. Plus, it's hot. There we go. Well, I don't think that's... Let's see what that looks like. It's close enough. Rough song at the beginning anyway. No need to do this, but I like playing with Bob. Another feature of Bob is with its electric drive, as you get closer to the center, I can start speeding up the feed, if you notice. Instead of doing the increasing the rotations of the workpiece, I'm just doing increasing the speed of infeed. Just a little bit off center there. And chamfer it. Be enough. Okay, that's the piece I made. Here's the holes we have to cover. And what I've done is this is concave. So the little bulge right there. So now I have a nice weldable joint all the way around. It's touching the metal everywhere. I can put 2 passes around that. And my hope is that it's in good metal. Guys, the only reason I could think of that being there, because unless it was corrosion and sit around for a long time in a warehouse, there's never been water in it from my use. It's always had oil in it. Now the oil never had any water in the oil, so I know that water just didn't sit there. And the oil on top of it, you would have think it would have never been rusty. And the way those are formed, I think this thing was drilled. And I think somebody welded it up and they got slag in the unit or in their weld and left all those pinholes. And finally, the weight of the oil pushed through all those pinholes and the paint. And, I mean, it's in the direct center. It's about the size of where a bung would go. Anyway, maybe this will fix it. I've spent a lot of money to get a good unit, and I'm going to fix it already. I even thought about putting this in and putting a bung in this, but, you know, it's got a drain that you pressurize out of. Oh well, running out of battery. Next time we'll start purging the tank and getting it ready to weld. That's cool.
may be asking what the heck I'm doing. I'm getting this dry ice down low enough where I can stick it in this tank. Why am I doing that? Stick around, you'll find out. See, well, you can't see. I'm sticking it in this tank. You can see it starting to come through this hose a little bit. It's I mentioned this is dangerous as hell. If I didn't, I should have. In fact, I'm almost certain I did 4 or 5 times. Not only can you freeze your fingers off, you'd stick your tongue to a flagpole. I got CO2 in the form of dry ice filling the inside of that tank. Why? Because I need to get the oxygen out of the tank to get rid of one leg of the fire triangle. I put in a couple, 3-4 pounds of it. And frankly, I don't see a big reaction. This up here is open. I'm gonna squirt some water in there and see if it'll make some billowing gaseous clouds. Chemistry class here today. H2O. CO2. Hey. Oh, you can see it. I want to look. See the gas coming out? Well, I'm gonna put this rag in here, paper towel, so that it don't all escape out here, because I want it to come all the way up here and come out of this. You're not looking again. I want it to come out this vent up here. That way the whole tank is full. You can make your own carbon dioxide. I think it's baking soda and hydrochloric acid or muriatic acid, one of the two. But almost any H-E-B or Kroger's has a freezer up in the front. It's got it in there. It's $1.88 a pound. Why go to the trouble? Now this time I'm just going to break it up into little pieces here. See about getting it in there. It was faster cutting it on the bandsaw, but this will work. Look how cold it is down here. Y'all aren't watching again. It's the trouble with trying to do this in a hurry and doing these. I have to look at things just the same. Tank. I wear gloves, guys. I think this is around minus 107 degrees. See how cold it is? But it's also sublimating all the CO2 out. That's what we want inside. CO2. CO2. H2O, turn it down on its side. Hope it doesn't blow up. Now I got a bunch of it coming out. I'm gonna get a welded helmet. Hands are cold. Sure is cold in there. That water coming out made it look really good. The old Miller 225 out. Might as well wear this just for the ease of moving around today. Do that. This around, you guys can see. There's my whole stuff. Give me some air. Don't need my glasses. I got built-in glasses. Ah! Things I do. Okay, I see CO2 coming up out of there. Put some tacks on. What the heck? You see all the gas come? That looks terrible welding. A dead gun it's going to hold. You see all the, well, you can't see. Looks terrible on this weld, but I've been trying to come over and keep all my heat on this side and then lay over passes. This has got 2, this has got 3. You can see the carbon dioxide coming out of the top up here. See it? Well, let me go around this side one more time. I went uphill twice and I'm going to come downhill to finish this around again. Of course, I don't know how long it's going to last because I think it's rusted up in here too. Shame you buy a new tool and this happens. Nice and frosty. But up there I've got CO2, so that means that thing's completely full of CO2. If it blows up, it's all Don's fault. It's one uphill pass all the way around now on this side. I'll start here and come around with another uphill, then I'll finish it off with a downhill. I think they've got it. I didn't die. But frankly, after you've seen somebody killed by doing stuff like this, it does weigh heavy on my mind. I do love that Optrail helmet. Let me take you on a little tour here. All right, as you can see, got a lot of CO2 gas coming out still. That was open. This was just a light plug, so if it had caught on fire, it would have blown that out. Sort of like a safety valve. You see,
There's a lot of condensation, and looks like the SpaceX booster did yesterday before it did a 33 engine static fire. And there's my plug. Got 2 uphill and 1 downhill cover pass on that. And I wanted this thicker so I could concentrate my heat over here, cutting over here, and then touching in and tying into this thinner steel. I didn't want it to mess up. It's not the prettiest in the thing. It's not the prettiest weld, but I don't think it's going to leak. Now I'm really tempted to just turn this thing upside down, or excuse me, right side up, and let that water and CO2 that's inside come out and see if it leaks. The problem is that's really, really cold, minus 107. And if I were to take it up in that right now onto that weld, which is hot still, it could crack the metal. So we're going to have to wait a while and see if that leaks or not. We're going to let all the water out of it so it won't rust anymore, and pour some more oil back in it for test. Not saying that those aren't better made quality products, but this thing never had any water in it, just oil. And my gosh, there's no way it should look like it does on the inside. Thanks for watching.